November 1944. The Lorraine plateau stretches endlessly beneath a ceiling of ash-gray clouds. Morning frost clings to the shattered branches of oak trees, and somewhere in the distance, the low rumble of engines breaks the silence, a mechanical heartbeat that shakes the frozen earth. German observation posts along the ridge report what they have reported for months. More Shermans. Always more Shermans. And in the command bunkers dug deep into the hillsides, the laughter comes easy. The Sherman tank, officially designated the M4 medium tank, had become a joke among the Wehrmacht's officer corps by the autumn of 1944. Intelligence reports flooding back to Berlin described them in dismissive terms. Thin armor, weak gun, mass-produced American trash rolling off assembly lines like tin cans. Panzer commanders who had faced them in North Africa, in Sicily, in the hedgerows of Normandy, returned with stories that fed the mockery. One Tiger could destroy 5 Shermans, they said. Maybe 10. The numbers became doctrine. German tank crews coined a term for them, Tommycoker, Tommy Cookers, because of how quickly they ignited when penetrated, sending towers of black smoke into the sky like funeral pyres. To the men who crewed the Panzer V Panthers and the massive Panzer VI Tigers, the Sherman represented everything weak about American warfare: quantity over quality, democracy's inability to produce true warriors, industrial mediocrity wrapped in olive drab paint. But democracy, as it turned out, had different mathematics. The German commanders expected another turkey shoot. They had faced Shermans at Villers-Bocage, where a single Tiger commanded by Michael Whitman destroyed an entire British column. They had faced them at Mortain, where panzer divisions counterattacked and learned that superior armor meant little against American air supremacy. Yet the belief persisted, reinforced by every engagement where an 88mm gun punched through Sherman armor like paper, where inexperienced American crews died in their first minute of combat, where the technical superiority of German engineering seemed to prove itself again and again. In the officers' tents and command posts, over captured cognac and dwindling cigarette rations, they told themselves the same story. 1 Tiger equals 5 Shermans. The math was simple. The war was still winnable. What they did not calculate was that America could build 50 Shermans for every Tiger Germany produced. The records are precise. Between 1942 and 1945, American factories manufactured 49,234 Sherman tanks. Germany, in the same period, produced approximately 1,347 Tigers. The Sherman wasn't designed to be the best tank on the battlefield. It was designed to be on every battlefield, simultaneously, in overwhelming numbers. While German engineers obsessed over armor thickness and gun caliber, American engineers obsessed over reliability, repairability, and the width of European railway tunnels. A Sherman could cross the Atlantic in a Liberty ship, roll off at a French port, drive 300 miles without mechanical failure, take a hit from a Panzerfaust, have its engine replaced in the field within hours, and return to combat. A Tiger, magnificent and terrifying, required specialized rail cars, constant maintenance, and if disabled, was often abandoned because no recovery vehicle could move it. The smoke from burning Shermans became something else, not defeat, but persistence. November 19, 1944. The frost has melted into cold rain. Near the town of Arracourt, elements of the 4th Armored Division engaged the 5th Panzer Army in what would become one of the largest tank battles on the Western Front. The German force includes newly arrived Panther OSF G models, sleek, deadly, armed with 75mm guns that could penetrate a Sherman's frontal armor at 1,000 yards. The American force is composed almost entirely of M4A3 Shermans, some upgraded with a 76mm gun, most still carrying the original 75mm that could barely scratch a tiger's hide at combat range. On paper, it should be a slaughter. The Panther commanders position themselves on the high ground, exactly as doctrine demands. They wait for the Shermans to advance across the open fields, into the kill zone where German optics and German steel would prove their superiority once more. But the Shermans don't advance alone. They come with something the Germans hadn't fully accounted for, not just numbers, but integration. Forward artillery observers travel with every American tank platoon, linked by radio to entire battalions of 105 mm and 155 mm guns. P-47 Thunderbolts circle overhead, waiting for coordinates. The Shermans advance in coordinated teams, using terrain the heavy Panthers cannot navigate, flanking and suppressing while others maneuver. When a Panther destroys one Sherman, two more emerge from different angles. When a Tiger reveals its position by firing, 20 artillery shells bracket its location within 90 seconds. The German tanks are individually superior, but they fight as individuals, each commander a knight in his steel castle, hunting for glory. The American tanks fight as an orchestra, each instrument playing its part. The battle lasts 3 days. When the smoke clears, the 4th Armored Division has destroyed over 60 German tanks while losing 26 Shermans. But here is the crucial detail, the one that broke German calculations. Those 26 Shermans were replaced within 48 hours. The 60 German tanks were irreplaceable. Major General John S. Wood, commander of the 4th Armored, wrote in his after-action report, "The Sherman is not designed to fight tanks. It is designed to win wars." The distinction mattered. While German industry poured resources into building a smaller number of technologically superior vehicles, American industry produced a flood of adequate vehicles, and adequate, when multiplied by 50, becomes overwhelming. A Sherman crew knocked out in the morning could be assigned a new tank by afternoon. A Tiger crew that lost their vehicle often became infantry, because there was no replacement Tiger to give them. The symbolic power of the Sherman became psychological warfare in itself. German soldiers manning defensive positions learned to recognize the sound, not of one engine, but dozens, hundreds, an iron tide that didn't stop when you destroyed 5 or 10 or 20. They learned that every Sherman knocked out would be replaced by morning, that every American tank lost today meant 2 more crossing the Rhine tomorrow. The mockery in the officers' mess halls grew quieter. The laughter dried up somewhere between the Siegfried Line and the Ardennes. December 1944. The Battle of the Bulge, Hitler's final desperate gamble in the West. German intelligence has located thin points in the American line, places where fresh Sherman battalions haven't yet arrived. Panzer divisions smash through in the early morning darkness, the Tigers and Panthers leading a spearhead that drives 30 miles into Belgium in 48 hours. For a moment, the old dream resurfaces. Quality triumphing over quantity, German tactical brilliance destroying American industrial mediocrity. At the town of Bastogne, the 101st Airborne is surrounded. No armor support. No supply line. German commanders offer surrender terms. But the Shermans are coming. 3rd Army, commanded by George S. Patton, pivots 90 degrees north in weather that grounds all aircraft, a maneuver military historians still study for its audacity and speed. Leading the relief column is the 4th Armored Division again, and they bring with them over 200 Sherman tanks. Not the best tanks. Not the most advanced tanks. Just 200 reliable, replaceable, utterly adequate tanks crewed by men who have learned that you don't need to kill a Tiger in a fair fight. You need to kill it with artillery, air support, and 3 Shermans hitting it from different angles while it's reloading. The relief of Bastogne succeeds. The Bulge collapses. By January, the German army in the West is shattered not by superior weapons, but by an industrial logic they never adapted to. Attrition works when only one side can afford it. Oberst Hans von Luck, a veteran panzer commander who fought from France to Russia to Germany itself, wrote in his memoirs after the war, "We won battles. They won the war. Our Tigers were magnificent. But magnificence cannot hold a continent when the enemy can afford to lose 5 tanks for every one of yours and still have more tanks than you at the end of the day." The bitterness in those words reflects not just military defeat, but ideological collapse. The German military tradition prized the individual hero, the superior warrior, the triumph of will and quality. The Sherman represented something that tradition couldn't process. The triumph of systems, of logistics, of democratic industrial might that valued every factory worker as much as every tank commander. By March 1945, Shermans are crossing the Rhine on pontoon bridges while German defenders fight with whatever they have left. Outdated Panzer IVs, repurposed assault guns, Hitler Youth with Panzerfausts. The Tigers are nearly all destroyed or abandoned for lack of fuel. The Panthers sit immobile, out of spare parts. And the Shermans keep rolling, unremarkable and unstoppable, their 75mm guns adequate for a task that no longer requires perfection. Just presence, everywhere, all at once. There is a photograph from April 1945, taken in a German town whose name has been lost to history. A Tiger tank sits abandoned in the town square, turret traversed to the side, out of ammunition and fuel. Parked around it in a loose semicircle are 7 Sherman tanks, engines idling, crews eating K-rations on the hulls. The symbolism is accidental but perfect, the magnificent beast surrounded by the adequate many, and the adequate many are the ones still moving. The Sherman never became a legend the way the Tiger did. It never inspired the same fear or the same respect among military historians who measure greatness in armor thickness and gun penetration. But it did something more important. It arrived, everywhere, consistently, in numbers that turned tactical defeats into strategic victory. It burned easily, yes. It was outgunned, yes. But it was there on every battlefield from North Africa to Okinawa, and when it burned, another rolled forward through the smoke. Freedom, it turns out, doesn't require the perfect weapon. It requires enough weapons, wielded by enough people who believe in something beyond individual glory, who understand that winning matters more than winning beautifully, that democracy's strength lies not in producing the single greatest warrior, but in mobilizing the collective will of millions. The Sherman was democracy on tracks. Flawed, practical, mass-produced, and utterly relentless. It won not because it was the best, but because it was good enough and there were always more. And in the end, the German commanders stopped laughing.